Hey everyone, it's Alexa again from GetGlee. This tutorial I'm going to talk about surface patterning and how to add a pattern onto your 3D model in 3ds Max. Some of my students right now in Studio are trying to create a surface pattern that could integrate structure and skin into their designs. So I'm just going to try and do a few quick options and hopefully this will help them to achieve their goals with surface patterning. The first step you could do is, here's my basic form. I just took a box, bent it twice, kind of to fake like some sort of tilted building look. And I'm going to first start by using Edit Poly tools. So I'm going to select the polygon level down here once I have an Edit Poly on top. And I'm going to hit Control A on my keyboard. That will select all the polygons on the shape. And I'm going to start to mess with inset. Now perhaps I don't want the roof of this object to be changed with the pattern because I want a flat roof or don't want the pattern to be influenced on the roof. So then we can go to the top with Control Alt selected, left mouse click, just deselect the roof. Maybe we don't want the pattern on the roof. Okay. Then we can flip back. Sorry, when I use this recording program, it kind of makes my model very slow to react. So now we have the building with just the sides selected. The bottom is selected as well at the moment, but we're just going to ignore that for now. You can deselect the bottom if you wanted to. Let's use the inset tool. So over here on Edit Polygons, we have inset. If your inset is not showing, you might have it like this. You can just click and drag to pull it out, or otherwise you would just have to scroll down to open it up. So I'm going to hit the settings box. Now we have the inset tool. You can drag this over if you want. So we're going to inset, I want to do by polygon. So if you click on this, you can choose by polygon or by group. I'm going to do by polygon. And I'm going to inset it, let's say 20 centimeters. Okay, maybe not 20, maybe something like that. I'm going to check that. And now if I delete these faces, I'll have a frame that is just a structural system. What I could also do is duplicate this. So right click, clone, make a copy, okay. So now we have a clone of that. And we can go into this again and delete. So now we still have the other objects still behind. But then on the object that we cloned and we delete the faces, we can do Control A again to select all of them. And we can add a thickness to this frame by going to Shell. And you can choose if you want an outer amount or an inner amount. I'm going to do an outer amount of 2 centimeters maybe. And now you have, or we could do really drastic. Now you can see a very different look of your building. 5. So you can mess with this. So now we have a basic, kind of basic frame, and then the inside one we could turn this into a glass material so that it's more transparent. I could make it blue right now just to emphasize that idea. So now that could be glass and this could be your structural system. So that could be one way of doing it. And then we could add a kind of a turbo smooth. Make it a little different. You have to also turbo smooth the inside. And perhaps scale down the inside just slightly. So that's an option. You can also add more turbo smooth iterations on this so that it's more smooth. And if you turn off turbo smooth, you can see the difference in the building. patterning. So that's one option. And you could even go back and do this same thing. I'm just going to delete all of these. Start over with this edit poly. If you think the scale is too big, you can do Control A to select all of them. And you can go over to tessellate and you can add tessellations. So now, if we go back in and we use the inset tool by polygon, we will get much smaller squares for patterning. And then if we delete the inside, that's what we have. More of a much smaller mesh. So that's another way to do it. And then if we delete that, let's go back to our original. I'm going to hide this for a second, and let's delete this guy. Unhide all. I'm right-clicking to get that menu. Okay, so another way, that's just working with the surface. You can do all kinds of things. So if you inset it, you can also, if we had an edit poly, Control A, let's say we inset 5 centimeters by polygon, check, and then we scale out the faces or scale them in. You can get a different look. So you can scale these. You can also move them with the move tool. So you can move them out one direction. So that could give you something else. You could do it by face or by each side, so that these go in, those go in, or you can pull them out. You can also rotate. You can use the rotate tool. You need to orient them towards the sun. If you want to capture sunlight, you can rotate them. Maybe you need to rotate them up if you want like a clear story type effect. So the options are pretty much endless with that. And using these commands, you could also delete the faces, then select the borders. So select the border tool, Control A. That's not what we want. So we wanted to mess with some of these. You can select a few of these. I'm hitting Control left click to select multiples, and then you can extrude these out. Extrude tool. So you can extrude some of these guys out. Maybe they shrink in. Why is that not working? So you can mess with that. Give it a different level of detail in some areas. Oops, selected. So that's some options. You can also just use the extrude tool in general. If you go to edit poly, select faces, inset, polygon, check, and you can extrude these faces out. So that gives you a different surface to extrude them in. Gives you the frame we did earlier with the glass inset a bit from the outside. You can also do that and then scale them down so that it goes into more of a point. You can rotate them so that they twist. So you can get a bunch of different types of patterning in your skin system. Another way to do this, let's delete this edit poly and start over. Let's add a new edit poly. Is to use the topology tool. So with the polygon level selected under the edit poly, you can go into the topology. You find this under modeling, polygon modeling, generate topology. And you click on that. You need to be, depending on the topology you're using, it'll tell you if you need to use an edge or a face. You can select polygon or edges, but I'm going to go with polygon. And suppose you wanted to have a diagrid type pattern on this, then you could just go over here and start to choose different patterns. So now you have this type of pattern, and then you could go into inset again, polygon, and you can get more of a diagrid looking pattern. So that's an option. If you don't want this pattern, you can do Control Control Z, take it off. You could try something else, maybe a tiled pattern. Easy tiles. Now if you're like, yeah, I like the tile pattern, but this is obviously not to scale if this is a building size, then what you need to do is change the amount of tessellation of your model, or the amount of polygons on your model. And how you can do that is what we did before. Control A, select all the polygons, go over to this tessellate tab or tessellate button and choose the settings box. And you can just hit plus, plus, plus until you think it looks about the correct size. You could measure with measuring tape and whatnot to actually see the correct size, but you could judge it by your eye for now. And then you can go back over here and choose tiles. So now you have a brick pattern on your building, or you could choose diagrid. Oops. Change it to diamonds. And you can just explore with all these different options. So that's another way. You can also draw on your model. So let's delete this edit poly. A few more minutes left of this video. Let's draw. So we can edit poly, select faces, and we can do quick slice. So this is just kind of slicing across your model. No, it's not right, sorry. Let me think, maybe some edges. Yeah. Okay, so if you go in vertex and you use quick slice, you can begin to kind of click and draw your own pattern on here based on maybe your research, based on some idea you have in your mind that you've been drawing out on paper. And then you can start to just draw in some things. Of course, you would do this based on some sort of rule system and not just kind of click and point like I'm doing right now. After you're done with that tool, though, you need to press it again to deselect the tool. Then we can go back into the faces. Do Control A. Could maybe do an inset. Let's do by polygon. Too much. And you get something like that. Maybe, let's see, 3. And 5. One works, or 2. So that could be an interesting envelope. And then you can delete the faces and you're left with this interesting, oops, sorry. Oh, okay, close bar. You're left with this interesting frame, which you can then add a shell to if you want. Or you can do any of the other methods we've talked about. So if we go to shell, you have a shell, you can do what you want. So those are some options for making the skin system. You can also just work on one side at a time. You don't have to work on all of the sides like I've done. I recommend sometimes maybe making a original, a copy of this. So if we do a clone, copy, hide the shell, hide the edit poly, then you still have the initial form before. You can also always add mesh smooths to get a different look, a more smooth or turbo smooth. Let's see, mesh smooth body. Give you a different look in general. So there you go, you get something a little more organic on your building. But you can do a variety of different things. You would have to go back in and edit this. You might need to weld some of the vertices to make this a cleaner model after you've used the mesh smooth. But in general, this is just some options for how you could mess with the surface of your building and start to think about the design of it. Yeah. Oh, one last thing. Maybe I can show you it in 30 seconds or less. Hurry! You can also, I don't know if I'm going to make it, do an edit poly. Choose an edge. Really fast. Hold shift to, whatever. Okay, then you can, 10 seconds, extrude. So you can give yourself kind of veins on your building. That's also an option. So you can try that. Okay, I'm out of time. Thanks. Bye.